Welcome to the new video on AWS Cloud Development Kit. My name is Durgapsa Pudwani. In this video, we are going to see how we can set up AWS CloudFront distribution for S3 origin. If you are directly jumping to this video, then I will highly recommend to go through two videos. First, how you can set up your AWS account, and second, how you can use AWS S3 to host static website. AWS CloudFront is content delivery network. So first, going into more details about what this AWS CloudFront is, we need to understand what is this content delivery network. Now consider that you have created a web application, and this web application is going to be used by many users in different part of world. You have identified that 50% of your users are from US region, and that's why you have hosted your application in US region. Now the users which are close to the US region, they are much happier because when they are trying to access the website using public internet, it is much faster for them. On the other end, the users which are residing in different geographical location, when they are trying to access this website using public internet, then they are facing a latency issue and the overall user experience for them is not good. To mitigate that thing, what most of the cloud provider does is they are coming with a solution which is called as content delivery network. What happen in case of content delivery network, instead of serving directly from origin server, there will be multiple server which is close to the user, has been kind of hosted, and these are acting as a proxy. This server is called as edge location, and when the user want to access the website, they are going to access the website from the edge location server. To understand how CDN works, we need to understand that how the request is going to flow from a user which is located in a different part of the world to the origin server. Now consider in our case that the server which is located in US region, and there is a one user which is located in India region. When the user want to access to particular website or web application, then the first request is going to go to the edge location, and there is a dedicated internet line between the edge location to the origin server. Once the request reaches to the origin server, it is going to send the response back to the application or the edge location server. Once the data reaches to the edge location, depending on the configuration, the data may get cache, and once the data is going to cache, the request is served to the end user. Now consider a case that there is another user which want to get the same data. If the data is already cached to the edge location, in that case the request will not go back to origin server and the request will be served from the edge location. If you are using AWS, then the service which is responsible for content delivery network is AWS CloudFront. Coming back to the original topic, what we are going to do in this video is first we are going to create one simple React application, and the artifact of the React application is going to be uploaded to this Amazon S3 using AWS console. Once the upload part is done, we are also going to configure our AWS S3. If you are new to this AWS S3, then I will highly recommend to watch one of my video. In that video, I mentioned that how we can configure this S3 as a static website. Then we are going to configure our AWS CloudFront, and the AWS CloudFront is going to get the data from AWS S3. Then we are going to configure AWS Route 53, and this is a DNS configuration. And at the end, the user is going to get the simple application which we have created in React. It's a kind of a simple hello world application, and user is going to see by hitting a particular URL. So let's get started. So in the first step, we are going to create the React application. So for creating a React application, we just need to run a simple command. The command is npx create react app and the name of app. I will put demo app. It is going to take some time, so I'm just kind of pausing this video and we'll come back here when the entire setup is done. The React setup has been done. We can navigate to the demo folder. And we can run the command npm start. This is going to start the server. So this is website which we are going to host to our S3, and it is going to be served using a AWS CloudFront. Now what we need to do is we need to create this artifact, and for creating this artifact what we need to do is we need to run npm run start command, sorry, build command. This is going to build the artifact, and once the artifact is ready, then we can upload this artifact to S3. So this artifact has been created. We can quickly navigate to folder. This is a demo app. It has created a build, and this build we need to upload to S3. For uploading to S3, it is very easy. We can use AWS Management Console. So if you are using this AWS first time, then I will highly recommend to watch my video in which I mentioned that how we can create this AWS account. And there's another video in which I mentioned that how you can host your static website using S3. So for navigating to S3 is very easy. We can go to services, we can search for storage, and inside the storage we can see S3. I just mark as a favorite so that it will be available here. And another way to go to S3 is we can search the name S3 here, and after clicking on this thing we can navigate to S3. So once we have navigated to S3, we can create a new bucket. Now for this I will put the name CloudFront. CF stand for CloudFront. Origin testing. Let it be default US East 1 region. Let it be as default object ownership. One of the important when you are configuring your S3 bucket for CloudFront as a distribution, then please make sure that this public access to this bucket policy should be enabled. But when you are hosting as a static website, S3 as a static website, then you will need to kind of disable this thing. The next thing is versioning. We can keep as a default encryption we can keep as it is. Then we can click on create bucket. Once the bucket is created, we need to upload our build artifact. For uploading artifact, we can click on upload, and here we can directly do a drag and drop thing. So let me quickly select this all. Let me copy all this thing. Let me put it here. Everything is copied. We can click on upload. So this is going to take few seconds. So let me pause the video and we'll continue once the upload is done. The files are uploaded. Now we need to create the CloudFront distribution. For creating a CloudFront distribution, we need to go to services. Here we need to search for network. Inside the network and content delivery, we can see a CloudFront. We can mark as a favorite. Once this is favorite, it will be available here. And another way to go to CloudFront is we can search for the CloudFront. Once we navigate to the CloudFront page, we can click on create distribution. Here we can select the name of bucket as a distribution. The path will be default path. Then we can, one of the important thing is we want to block all the access to the S3 except the CloudFront, so that we can keep this as yes. That means origin access identity is true for the bucket. Only CloudFront can access this S3 when it is going to serve the content. And we need to create this origin access identity. We can create a new access identity here. We can just put the name something here, one. The origin access identity has been created. We can also update the bucket policy that only this CloudFront is going to access your content. We can say yes. We can also pass custom hazard, and this is something required that we are kind of creating a web applications, and in that web application we need to identify, okay, this data is coming from CloudFront, and how to identify that who is the user for CloudFront. Then we can create a custom header, but in our case we are just doing a static website hosting, so we don't have to kind of pass any custom header. Then enable origin shield, we are going to keep as a no. Default cache policy, we are going to say okay, cache everything, because this is all the static content, and cache everything. Compress object automatically, that means if someone has requested the zzip compression, then this is going to do a compression part, that thing. And second thing is the contents are static, so it's good practice to kind of compress the data so that overall when someone is going to request the content, the size of payload will be very low. Another thing which we are going to set is whether we want to make our website applicable for both HTTP and HTTPS. Then by default, yes, we can do it. But if you want to do more secure of your website, then select second option, which is redirect from HTTP to HTTPS. If you are going to keep only this HTTPS, then if someone has requested HTTP, then our request will not be served. So go with the second option, which is redirect HTTP to HTTPS. In our case, we are mostly going to deal with a GET request or a head request. So in that case, we don't have to kind of worry about this another kind of HTTP methods. So we are only going to focus in GET and head method. So there are cases where we need to enable other HTTP methods. For example, we can also use AWS CloudFront as a reverse proxy, or we can also use AWS CloudFront as a front gate for your load balancer or your API gateway. In that case, the data will be dynamic, and when you are going to access that kind of data, then we need to kind of enable these services, these HTTP methods. Restrict bucket, restrict viewer access. So it is also possible that only the restricted people can access this cloud distribution. Then yes, we can enable it, but in our case we can keep as no. Then one of the recommendation from CloudFront is when we are dealing with S3 as a static origin, then we can enable this kind of a caching policy so that when the data is going to reach to the edge location, it get cached, and the when someone is going to again ask the same kind of resources, it should get from your edge location. So this is the configuration that we need to do. Origin request policy we can keep as it is false. Another important thing which this CloudFront support is we can do some sort of kind of programmatically logic to check the request. We can modify the response based from the viewer point of view or from the origin request point of view. In our case, we are just dealing with kind of static content, so we don't have to kind of enable anything here. So it is also kind of asking you what kind of user you want. If you are only targeting the US based region, then you can only also go with kind of North America and Europe. But if you are targeting for Asia specific region, then you can kind of select the last option. So in the recommendations, definitely we can go with all edge locations so that it is kind of going to improve the performance overall. uh, do we need to enable this WF framework? It's kind of a, so for this it's kind of optional field, so we'll keep as it is. We need to configure the CNAME, but we'll do it once our basic setup is done. So when we're going to configure the CNAME, we also need to create the SSL certificate, which we are going to see in another 5 minutes. uh, so this two configuration will do once the bucket is created. It does support the HTTP too, so we just enable it. We don't have to deal with this logging part, and we don't have to kind of we don't have to worry about the IPv6 or IPv4 we are using. Additional description we can keep as it is. Create distribution. So this distribution is going to take few minutes. So once the distribution is done, then we'll come back here and we'll create the SSL certificate, and we'll bind this SSL certificate with this distribution. The CloudFront distribution is still in deploying phase. So what we can do is, I forgot to add one important property, which is to add the document root object, which is will have very helpful when someone is going to hit the particular URL. It should first check what page we want to render. Mostly in our case, it will be index.html, so that if someone is going to hit a particular URL, it should fetch the index.html and it should render the index.html. For this, what we need to do is we just need to click on this edit, scroll down, and here we need to pass the document root and click on save. So this is going to take few seconds to update this thing. So once this is done, then we can kind of navigate to this specific domain name, and we can hit here and we can see right now we are seeing this access denied because it is not kind of updated the index.html page changes that we have seen, which we have added recently. But if I'm going to index.html specific page, here we can see that. So once the deployment is completed, which is going to take few minutes, then we come back here and we'll just hit this URL without index.html, and this should work. Oh, this is working. The deployment is still in progress, but what we can also do is we can bind the SSL certificate to this CloudFront. For binding this SSL certificate, first we need to create the certificate. In AWS, there is a separate service which is called as ACM, which is nothing but the AWS certificate manager, and by this way we can create a certificate. So prior to creating a certificate, I can quickly go to Route 53. So Route 53 is nothing but it's kind of a DNS manager for AWS, where we can kind of register our own domain and we can kind of play around with them. So I have already created one domain here. I just registered one of the domain here. The name of domain is simply serverless. Now we are going to create one certificate with the same name. We can go to the certificate manager, request certificate, request public certificate. We can put the fully qualified domain name. For now I will put cf dot. We can add multiple domain name if required. We can do validation by both ways, by email validation as well as by DNS validation. So recommended way is to go with the DNS validation and then just click on request. Now we can see that request has been created. If you have registered your domain to AWS, you can click on this create record in Route 53. Create record. If you are going back to Route 53, a new record has been created. Now we can see that there's the one CNAME record has been created, and this CNAME is for AWS to kind of validate the certificate. If you're coming back here to AWS manager and if you're going back to certificate, so certificate pending validation still in progress. We can come here. So I'm just kind of stopping my video for some times once the validation is done as well as the CloudFront distribution is complete. Till the time I'm kind of pausing this video. Now we can see the certificate has been issued. If we can go back to the CloudFront, we can see that the status of this distribution has been enabled. Now we need to go to this distribution, then click on edit, and here we need to add an item which is an alternate domain name. We can copy the name from here. The name was cf dot simply serverless. And once you add the alternate domain name, it is going to search for the certificate, and we got the certificate because that has been issued. Now we just need to click on save changes. So the domain name has been attached to this CloudFront distribution. And then last we need to go to Route 53, and here we need to create a record. In this record I'm going to put cf. I just need to enable this alias, and then here I need to select CloudFront distribution, and here is going to show me the list of distribution. So based on this certification, based on this kind of a domain name, it is going to automatically going to find out the CloudFront distribution. And once I'm going to click on create record, the record has been created. I'm going to copy this URL and coming here, and I'm going to say simply serverless. So this create record is going to take some time to propagate. We can come back here. So once the propagation is done, then I will kind of continue my video. We can see that the website is up now, and the domain is cf.simplyserverless.com. We can quickly summarize that what we have done so far in this entire example. So we have created one React app, then we have published the artifact of React app to S3. We also configured the S3. We also configured the AWS CloudFront. Then we also configured the Amazon Route 53 for the DNS management. And at the end, the user is able to see our Hello World application. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you like the video, please don't forget to hit and subscribe button.